In this video, we're headed to the Petersen Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, California. This is one of the most notable automotive museums in the world, and it happens to have direct connections to the hot rod world. That's because Robert E. Petersen is the man who founded this museum, and he's also the man who founded Hot Rod Magazine. Now, there are rotating exhibits on the top 3 floors of the museum, and those can change from month to month, and there's always some really great stuff to see. But the majority of what we're going to look at today is in the vault. This is essentially the basement of the building, and it is a place for storage for cars that are not currently on exhibit in the top 3 floors. But this has become a very popular attraction in itself. There are hundreds of cars parked down here, and every one of them's got a big story. Every one of them's got great history. Every one of them has significance in some way, and there are some amazing hot rods, customs, drag cars, and other race cars on display here, and that's mostly what this video is going to focus on. There are other videos on the internet that cover the entire vault, that cover other cars in the vault, but this one is going to be mostly based around those hot rods, customs, and race cars. As soon as you walk into the main level, before you even get to the ticket counter, there are some great cars that greet you here. There are a few Mercedes cars here, and that's because there is a giant Mercedes-Benz exhibit on the main floor, and we'll see that there's other cars, including the famous 1968 Mustang GT Fastback from the movie Bullitt. Now, this car was made famous because of the car chase scenes and just the fact that this thing is pure American muscle, big V8, squealing tires, lots of action in that movie and those car chase scenes especially. Now, this particular car is actually one of the stunt cars that was used in the movie. It was reinforced for some of those jumps that they were making, and this thing actually went missing for quite a few years. It was only recently discovered, 2017 to be exact, and meticulously detailed and brought back to its original condition as seen in the movie. Another special feature area in that main floor, the Art of Joshua Vides. And you'll notice this is completely black and white, and these cars are real, but they don't look real. They look like two-dimensional drawings with this black and white scheme that just makes it look like it's on a piece of paper. The main attraction on that main level of the Petersen Automotive Museum, at least for right now, is the Mercedes-Benz exhibit. And there is a great chronological history of Mercedes-Benz automobiles, some amazing race cars, and just so much information and history here. It's a great place to walk around. So I want to show a few of those here, including this 1938 Mercedes-Benz 540K Autobahn, which is an incredible car. This thing has beautiful lines, but I was most impressed with the black paint. This paint was probably the best quality that I've seen in any museum, but it is absolutely stunning. And the car itself is amazing, but that paint really got my attention. Another car that I enjoyed seeing was this 1953 Mercedes-Benz W194, which is kind of like the predecessor to the 300 SL. It is the transaxle prototype, and you can see it has a little different front end treatment than the 300 SLs that we all know and love, but it does have the gull wing doors. It has that iconic body shape, but you can see it does have some different lines, some different wheel openings, some different treatments, and it has some great silver paint that looks great on that body. Here's another cool car from that Mercedes-Benz exhibit. This is a 1938 Mercedes-Benz W154, and this is obviously a race car, open wheel race car for Grand Prix racing. It had a supercharged V12 engine, so you can see the build quality is amazing, and these things performed as good as they looked. All right, let's head into the vault because that's what we all want to see. And again, I'm not covering every car in the vault because this would be a 5-hour video if we were to talk about every car, but I am going to show you the ones that stood out to me. So the first thing I noticed when I came down the stairs going into the vault is a 1946 Curtis Craft Midget. Now, these midget race cars were kind of a scaled down Indy car, and these cars raced on dirt and on asphalt, and this particular one looks like it raced on asphalt based on the slick tires, but you can see it has magnesium wheels, it has beautiful paint, and this one is powered by an Offenhauser 4-cylinder engine. This is actually the first car to wear the Ferrari name. This is a 1947 Ferrari 125S, and it is an immaculate sports car and race car. You can see the bodywork is beautiful, the interior, the tires and wheels, everything about this thing, the proportions. It is an amazing car, And horsepower for this car came from a Colombo V12 that measured only 1.5 liters in displacement. A tiny little V12 made great horsepower and probably made some great noises. I wish we could hear it today. We're walking past an amazing collection of cars here, including a Mercer Raceabout, a 1923 Mercedes-Benz, and then we pan over and see this absolutely beautiful Alfa Romeo Roadster. We got other classics like a Cadillac, a Pierce Arrow Roadster. The list of iconic and amazing cars goes on and on and on. And as I rounded the corner, I saw a workshop area and just sort of casually walked in outside of my tour area. And I think I wasn't allowed to be in there, but I got this quick video of some of the cars, and there's an Alfa Romeo, a Mini Cooper race car, a really cool Model A hot rod with a supercharged flathead, a Rambler American convertible, and what appears to be about a 67 Plymouth Barracuda fastback. Some great cars in here. They later put some barricades out there so people wouldn't wander in there like I did, but some really cool behind the scenes sort of stuff. Although this is an automotive museum, there were plenty of motorcycles to be seen. A lot of cool vintage racing bikes, some enduro bikes, dirt bikes, flat trackers. Some of the ones that stood out to me are this Triumph flat track bike. You've got a Harley with a sidecar, that's like 1920s type of stuff, maybe even late teens. You've got an Ariel, a Norton, and then an entire row of modern superbikes. And then as we spin around, we've got a beautiful LaSalle Cabriolet. And you can see this car has fender skirts on the rear, but they have attached what would be essentially the center cap for the wheel on that fender skirt so that that LaSalle logo is visible all the time and not hidden by the skirt. Next up, we're heading into the late 20s and early 30s and sort of into the Art Deco era. And we see a 1930 Cord, and then next to it is an elegant Delahaye Roadster, which has some of the most beautiful body lines ever made. And then a 1929 Ruxton, and you'll see it has a very wild paint job here. And a special detail about this 1929 Ruxton is it was a front-wheel drive car. That was kind of its big claim to fame, but it didn't last very long. Here are some more Art Deco cars, starting out with the Talbot Lago. Only 16 of these cars built. Sitting next to it is a Bugatti Roadster with those fully skirted fenders, lots of stainless steel trim, beautiful bodywork on that car. And then next to it is a 1937 Delage D8 120 Sport Coupe. Amazing body lines once again. And then on the other side of the wall, a 35 Ford Phaeton. And then we've got a Nash Coupe, which is sort of standard issue stuff compared to some of these other cars. And then sitting next to it is a beautiful, huge Roadster, bright red frame, black bodywork. We'll see that this thing sits up super high, but it has a low windshield. This is kind of like a factory hot rod, and this was made in 1929 by DuPont, and it's called the Model G Speedster. It's a 1959 Edsel, a 57 Chevy Bel Air convertible, and then the end of this row is a 1963 Studebaker Avanti, which was sort of ahead of its time. And then we pan over here, we've got a 1946 Ford Super Deluxe convertible. And we'll see this thing is beautifully restored, but the most unique part of this car is the roof. Now these cars had a normal canvas convertible top, but this one has an aftermarket top that was made out of plexiglass, and it's extremely rare. It was called the Plexi Top. Now here's another really rare car. This is a 1950 Crosley Scorpion Roadster. Now this was a prototype which debuted at the Petersen Motorama, and it was on the cover of the April 1952 Motor Trend magazine, and a really neat fiberglass body. You'll see that it does not have operational doors. You just step right over into the seats. No windows, no roof. Ultimately, this was a prototype, so this is pretty much the only one. On another row, we've got an MG. We have a Nash Healey, which is a beautiful sport coupe with that long nose. And then we have another concept car. This is a 1953 Dodge Storm Z250 is what it was called. And this thing has some pretty iconic pieces like those vertically stacked headlights, the very cool looking grille, and it had Hemi horsepower under the hood, and that beautiful body is all aluminum. If you've studied American automobiles, then you know about the Tucker Torpedo. These were iconic cars, even though there was just a handful of them built. But seeing one of these in person is a pretty great experience. These things had cool lines. They have that center mounted headlight, and they have a rear mounted engine, which is very unusual. It has a helicopter engine, a 6-cylinder helicopter engine powered these Tucker torpedoes. This was a very short-lived project due to Preston Tucker's inability to supply the cars. He had big ideas, but not quite enough infrastructure to make it happen. Here's another concept car, and this one's got some wild humps on the quarter panels there, a really low roof line, and some beautiful paint. This is a 1955 Mercury concept car. It was called the D528. It was an in-house research vehicle. It was not seen by the public until it was used in the Outer Limits TV show and in the movie The Patsy in 1964. And oddly enough, it had been modified by famous car customizer George Barris for those TV and movie appearances. Here's another wild one, a 1959 Scimitar, one of only 3 concept cars that were built for Olin Matheson Chemical Corporation. And then next to it is a more conventional American car, a 1958 Chevrolet Impala convertible. The next row we got a Ford Woody, a Stutz Bearcat, and then a highly customized 34 Ford Coupe Street Rod. And then on the end of this little row is a 55 Chevrolet Nomad. You'll see that it sits a little lower than stock. It's got some aftermarket billet wheels on there, but a great looking American classic car. And then we keep walking, we got a 36 Ford 3-window coupe, and this is a heavily customized car. Chop top, lots of custom sheet metal details. This car was built by Cole Foster for Metallica's lead guitarist Kirk Hammett. Now here's one I remember from all the magazines in the late 90s. This is the Sniper, a custom built 54 Plymouth. Troy Trepanier built this car for George Poteet. It has custom sheet metal work front to back and then a Viper V10 engine under the hood. Next up is a 57 Maserati 300S. Now these cars were essentially race cars, and you can see this one has a pretty basic interior, beautiful bodywork. It has wire wheels, side exit exhaust, a very minimal windscreen, lots of great aerodynamic tricks, and this is a very thoughtful recreation to the original 57 Maserati race cars. It has a little bit more modern 4.7 liter V8 engine, but still a very amazing piece. Next up is a 1957 Jaguar XKSS, which is one of only 16 built, and that's pretty rare to begin with. But this one is even more special because it was owned by Steve McQueen, and it's sitting right next to another cool one, a 1967 Ford GT40 Mark III. And this is not your average race car. It doesn't have all the race car numbers and equipment. It has wire wheels. It has a standard blue paint job. This thing looks like something you could drive on the street, but obviously it's built like a race car. So I've shown you some pretty exotic stuff so far, and this white Dodge looked pretty plain amongst all of that, but it's a very special car. This is a 67 Dodge Coronet WO23. That means it is a factory drag car. It's one of 55 produced. These things had radio delete, heater delete, no insulation, lightened as much as they possibly could be, and then of course had the most powerful 426 cubic inch Hemi engine under the hood. Here's another extremely rare car, and one of these things that just doesn't look like anything you've ever seen. It's a 53 Cadillac, and the body was built by Ghia, which is an Italian coach builder. It's one of only 2 cars of this configuration. It was on the cover of the January 1955 Road and Track magazine. It's a true 2-seat car. The back seat area was used to store your matching luggage that matched that beautiful leather interior. We'll see it has quad headlights, a beautiful grille, 5 chrome strips going down the side of the car, Cadillac wire wheels. This thing has all of the right touches for a truly customized coach-built sport coupe. Here we have a 1968 Dodge sitting next to a 1969 Chevelle Super Sport 396, and then we pan over and see a Kaiser Darren, a very influential American sports car. This is a fiberglass bodied car. These things used a Henry J style frame with the engine set way back into the chassis. The thing everybody remembers them by is they are the only car in the world to have pocket doors. That door slides into the front fender area and slides back and latches into place. It's an amazing piece of ingenuity, and these things go head to head with the Chevrolet Corvette as America's first true sports car. Next up is a Porsche 1500, and it is an American market car as evidenced by the front fender emblems there that say Continental. That is a very unusual name for a Porsche because these things always went by a number designation, 911, 356, and so on. But this car had that American market emblem on there, which makes it pretty rare. Next up, we have an absolutely stunning Rolls-Royce Phantom aerodynamic coupe. These cars are massive, and beautifully sculpted. And as we pan around, we see another Rolls-Royce from the same era with a little bit different body lines, the body lines that you're used to seeing with a Rolls-Royce. So two very different cars built in the same era, sitting in the same spot. That's pretty cool to see. All right, now we're getting into the good stuff. We're getting to the back of the vault, which is where the hot rods live. And the first thing I saw was the Bob McGee Roadster. This is a 32 Ford Roadster, and you can see this thing has the perfect stance, the perfect chopped windshield, the reshaped convertible top. You can see lots of details on this car that look like they're just supposed to be like this, but this car was actually built in the late 40s. This is the car that set a lot of the trends that we still see today in traditional hot rods and modern hot rods. This one was a hot rod cover car in October of 1948. It has so many firsts. It has hidden door hinges. It has a V spreader bar. It has a 3-piece hood instead of the 4-piece hood. It has a customized deck lid, and it has a flathead V8 with bronze Federal Mogul cylinder heads, twin Stromberg carburetors, and this car actually ran later in life at Bonneville. It ran 168 miles per hour, making it the world's fastest roadster at the time. Sitting next to it is the Ray Brown Roadster. This car was built in late 1945 and early 1946, and it's painted in Buick Sherwood green. And this is a very unusual combination for a hot rod of this time, but this car has an iconic look. And Ray worked for Eddie Meyer back in the day, ultimately sold this car in 1948, and it was stored for 40 years and discovered in its all original hot rod configuration. And ever since then, this car has been preserved beautifully and put on display for people to see. Finishing out this row is another iconic hot rod, the Doane Spencer Roadster. This car was built in 1944. I mean, this car is truly one of the pioneers of hot rodding. And it's the first car to have a Duval style windshield. You'll see that it has cowl steering that comes out of the cowl and runs up there to the spindle. It has exhaust made into the frame, and they did that for ground clearance because this car was originally going to race across the desert. This car is an amazing piece of hot rod history, and it's been restored beautifully. Walking through the hot rod area, we see a 1953 Hanson Cobra. Now, Wally and Harry Hanson were brothers, and they built this car to debut at the Petersen Motorama. It has a fiberglass body with some beautiful lines, and then horsepower comes from an Oldsmobile Rocket 303 cubic inch V8. Here's another iconic hot rod. This is Big Daddy Ed Roth's first build called the Outlaw. He built this in 1959, built the custom fiberglass body from scratch. The chassis was sort of a mixture of Model A and Model T parts, has some aftermarket pieces as well, but there wasn't a whole lot of aftermarket pieces to be had in 1959, so he had to make a lot of stuff. This car has a Cadillac 331 cubic inch V8 with 4 Stromberg carburetors mounted on top of a Krager manifold. Here's another row of iconic hot rods, including the Doyle Gamble Coupe. This is a rowdy 32 Ford 3-window coupe. You can see it's got a chop top, a killer stance, has a moon tank up front, cheater slicks poking out of the back. I mean, this car really gets you going if you like aggressive drag racing themed hot rods. And then we have a 1990s hot rod legend. This is the Aluma Coupe, built by Boyd Coddington, and as the name suggests, it has an aluminum body. You can see it has no fenders, and the body is very aerodynamically sculpted. It's very round, not a lot of flat space, just a very cool looking car for the time. It had directional billet wheels on it, and it had a turbocharged Mitsubishi 4-cylinder engine. Sitting next to it is a traditional Mercury Custom. They've chopped the top. It has shaved drip rails, Buick side trim. It has the spotlights, the rounded corners on the hood. It has all the right tricks for a traditional Mercury Custom. Sitting behind that Mercury is a 427 Ford Camry with Hillborn fuel injection. Really cool display. I wish I could have seen it a little bit closer, but still cool to see. And then on the other side of that little garage set is a big block Chevy with a wine blower and 2 carburetors. This is more of an 80s pro street setup, but still very cool. Now this next one I was really excited to see. This is a 1929 Ford Roadster, and this thing looks like something you would have seen on the Bonneville salt flats in the 1940s or 50s. And the truth is, this was a competition-themed car. You can see the aerodynamic track nose, which was hand-built. It doesn't have a windshield, but ultimately this car won the America's Most Beautiful Roadster Award in 1950. That was the first time that this award was given to a car, And it's amazing that they chose a car like this, because this car is nicely detailed. It has a beautiful paint job, lots of great tasteful details on this thing, but it is a stripped down race car. And to show you how quickly things change, we have the 1963 America's Most Beautiful Roadster winner. This is Tex Smith's XR6 custom show rod, and this thing goes way beyond anything we would consider to be a traditional hot rod. It has a completely custom body, and it doesn't resemble anything that Ford or Chevrolet or Dodge ever produced. It's truly a custom build. And this was a joint op with AMT, and they completely funded the project as a partnership because they were going to get a lot of publicity in Hot Rod Magazine. And this thing was worked on by lots of legendary hot rodders. George Barris did the body work and laid down 40 coats of candied tangerine paint. Gene Winfield did some of the sheet metal work on it. Tony Nancy did the interior. I mean, this thing was a legendary car, and they barely got it done for the 1963 Roadster Show, where it ultimately won the America's Most Beautiful Roadster Award. Another winner of the Amber Award is the Golden Star. This is a T-model based car with a lot of hand-built parts throughout. Horsepower comes from a 1965 Ford double overhead cam Indy engine, and this car actually won the Amber Award 2 times in 3 years. Here's another 2-time winner of the Amber Award, the Candy Root Beer Roadster. This car has some mural painting on it. You can see it has lots of vintage stuff on the engine, the blower, and those really crazy looking valve covers on a small block Chevy. Lots of show car stuff going on here, and this car won the Amber Award in 1971 and 1975. Here's another Amber winner, 1969. This is called the Alien, and it is definitely an odd looking roadster. It was built on a 37 Ford chassis, and that body is completely custom, made out of plywood and fiberglass. This is definitely not the type of car that wins Amber today, but during the 1960s and 70s, there was some pretty wild stuff in contention for the award. Now we're getting back into a little more traditional hot rod stuff. This is a 32 Ford Roadster. You can see the stance is nice, chopped windshield, got a flat head with aluminum heads and multiple carburetors. And what I like about the engine bay is that finned aluminum firewall. That's not something you see every day. So this car was pretty cool. It's not anything historically significant other than the fact that it was featured in the Iron Man movie and the sequel. Now here's a car I've wanted to see my entire life. This is Cadzilla. This car is one of the most iconic customs of all time. It was built in 1989, and it was on the cover of Hot Rod Magazine in July of 1989. It's based on a 1948 Cadillac. Hot Rods by Boyd built this car. Boyd Coddington was already a famous builder at this point, but he went supersonic with this build because this car got all the attention. It has an eggplant color. It is beautifully sculpted. It's beautifully finished. The custom wheels, the stance, everything about this car got your attention, and especially that roof line and those rear quarter panels that were sculpted so beautifully. And what made it even more special is this car was not just a showpiece. It drove across country by 2 Hot Rod Magazine staffers, one of which I used to work with back in my magazine days. Pretty cool car, pretty amazing that it's still preserved and still looks as good as it ever did. Even more lineups of beautiful customized cars, including this Buick convertible. But what really got my attention on this lineup is this Studebaker. This was called the Frankenstude, and this was originally just a drawing that Tom Taylor did back around 1990. And this thing turned into a real car, and it's still here looking just like it did in the early 90s. You can see the directional billet wheels, the stance, the purple color, everything about this thing screams 1990. And this thing was just another cool one to see because I loved Tom Taylor's artwork when I was a kid, and seeing one of his drawings come to life right in front of my eyes, pretty cool experience. Now we're heading into the race car section of the vault. And the first one that got my attention is this 1956 Corvette, and this is the first competition car in the Corvette legacy. In 53, 54, and 55, the Corvette was more of a novelty sports car. It didn't have any real racing pedigree. But in 56, Zora Arkus Duntov stepped into the picture and built this amazing race car. This one ran 150.58 miles per hour in the Flying Mile at Daytona and got a class victory at the 12 Hours of Sebring, and the rest is history. From that point on, the Corvette was a fixture in American sports car and race car history. Next up is a Can-Am car, and I love these cars because they're so wild and they're so low to the ground, and I especially love them because a lot of these cars ran Chevrolet horsepower. This is an example of that. This is a 1966 Lola, and this thing sits right on the ground. You'll see it has no roof, just a tiny little chrome roll bar, and an amazing 5.5 liter Chevrolet engine right behind your head. Here's another Can-Am car, this time a McLaren, and McLaren was known for its use of big block Chevys. And this example has one right there behind your head, big block Chevy, exotic parts on the inside. Some of these cars even had magnesium blocks. They were doing everything they could to save weight and make big time horsepower, and you can see the fuel injector stacks sticking up, beautiful wedge shaped body with big time downforce on the back, big stagger on the tire and wheel setup. These things are just about the coolest race car that was ever built. Next up is a car that looks like a Corvette race car, but it's not. It's a truly hand-built car, and it was built in 1957 by Teverball and Kirkland. This thing has a supercharged Mercury V8 engine, and it was the first car in land speed racing to use a parachute and disc brakes. It ran 175 miles an hour in 1957. NASCAR went through some big changes in the 80s and 90s, and this was the result of that. In the 1990s, we saw some different body styles come out, and this one is from the Oldsmobile camp. We'll see it's got the Hardy sponsorship, classic paint job, and this one was driven by Cale Yarborough. Sitting next to it, this is a true Black Widow. Now, these Black Widow cars started life as a 150 two-door sedan. That was the most stripped down car that you could get from Chevrolet. And they got sent out to Sedco, who took these cars and made them into race cars by putting truck suspension under them, truck rear end, and because of that, they ended up being 6-lug. So that's a very unique identifier on these Black Widow cars. This particular one was raced in NHRA G stock back in the 1960s, all the way up until about 1970 when stock eliminator really changed a lot. But this car is an iconic piece. You can see the wild and crazy paint job. You can see Wyndham and Duncan in Irving, Texas. That was lettered on the quarter panel, and lots of other lettering and stickers and all sorts of stuff on this car, including some really wild looking fender vents, which were actually just household vents that were bent to the curve of that fender that were depressurizing the engine bay. That was one of the original problems with these cars that was actually pointed out by Smokey Yunick. And they developed this new system to kind of evacuate some of the air out of the engine bay, and that helped feed the engine with fresh air. So really cool looking car. You can see this one still rolls on the original chrome reverse wheels on those 6-lug hubs. You can see it has the original seat belts which hold the hood down. This is before the days of hood pins. Pretty cool car to see in person. Once again, you hear about Black Widows, but you see very few of the real ones in the real world. Another amazing piece. Next up, we have a vintage racing go-kart. We can see it's got magnesium wheels, a butterfly steering wheel, hydraulic disc brakes. This was a top-of-the-line racing kart from back in the 60s. And while we're on the subject of downsized race cars, we've got Joey Lissoni's quarter midget race car. This was a completely hand-built, home-built car by Joey's dad, Joseph, and this thing had an alcohol-burning, single-cylinder engine built by Offenhauser. This was a race-winning, championship-winning car. Sitting behind it is a Hartman racing go-kart, and you can see the seating position on this car. It has that laid-back seating position, wild arrangement on this thing. Here are some more drag cars, and we're going to kick it off with this beautiful front-engine dragster. Now, this is a more modern front-engine dragster. This is not a historical chassis. This thing is built to meet modern safety requirements, but it has a very vintage engine combination. And this car has 2 Ford flathead V8 engines. You can see they've got Offenhauser cylinder heads, they have Hilborn mechanical fuel injection, they got magnetos, they got zoomy headers. I mean, these things are built as much as you can build one. This is a nice long chassis, beautiful body work, beautiful paint work. This is a great looking dragster. This is the Malco Gasser. It's a brand new 67 Ford Mustang body. Lots of fiberglass pieces. You can see the wildly exaggerated wheel openings, the Halobrand wheels, essentially a dragster tire and wheel setup on the back, spindle mount wheels on the front. This thing had engine set back to 10%, which is what the rules allowed, but it had a serious blown and injected combination 427 cubic inches, single overhead cam Ford combination, and this thing made big time horsepower, well north of 1,000 horsepower, and this was as stripped down, as lightweight as you can get. And this car ran in AA gas, and it was a dominating force. It debuted in 1967 at the Spring Nationals in Bristol, and it ran until George Montgomery came out with his 1969 Mustang just a couple years later. A truly game-changing car in the world of drag racing. This thing is beautifully restored. You can see the metal flake paint, the lettering, the magnesium wheels are aged perfectly, and this is one of the coolest cars in the vault, if you ask me. In front of it is a more modern piece of drag racing history. This is a 2010 Ford Mustang funny car that was campaigned by John Force Racing, and this is a special paint scheme. You can see that Castrol GTX, which was his sponsor for many years. You can see that paint scheme has the addition of the 25th anniversary logo for John Force Racing. He is one of the most notable drag racers of all time, and the fact that he's based out of Southern California makes this a natural fit for the Petersen Automotive Museum. Continuing down this row, we see tons of high-tech Indy cars and Formula One cars, but I don't really care all that much about that because there is a beautifully restored 1960s front engine dragster sitting right here in the middle of the floor that we got to take a closer look at. This thing has a great body. You can see it has that chute pack on the back. You can see it has beautiful bodywork on the front side as well. And this thing is nice and long. This is sort of like a 1968-ish year model if you're judging it by the wheelbase alone, but this thing is beautifully restored. Great looking paint work. The interior is great. You can see it's got a chrome rear end housing, lots of chrome pieces on the inside. It has chrome on the front axle, the torsion bar front suspension. All of these details are beautifully put together, and we can see that this thing has a blown and injected 392 based Chrysler Hemi. Now these things ran on nitromethane and were absolutely volatile combinations. Big time horsepower, but they made big time explosions when things went wrong, and this one is obviously just right. You see it's lots of chrome, lots of polished aluminum. This is a beautiful showpiece. And then we look on the back here, it has beautifully polished two-piece American mags. These are magnesium. They have been polished to a chrome-like finish. You can see the M&H tires. Just a great combination front to back on this truly iconic 1960s front engine dragster. And that's how we're going to end it. The vault at the Petersen Automotive Museum is an amazing experience. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, you got to check this place out. Tons of history, tons of iconic cars, race cars, hot rods, and much more. It's definitely worth the trip. It's definitely worth the money. You got to check it out.